Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Sawin coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Well, I have another Dogman story for you. Actually, three Dogman stories. These are really, really crazy, scary kind of stories for sure. Um, and Romania, one of these stories, takes place in Romania. My goodness, a very interesting place that is for sure. You're gonna like it. If anyone out there has a story that they would like to share, you can contact me at brentonson@gmail.com. Give me some brief description of your story and contact information. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and maybe you can come on and share your story. Okay, and if anyone wants to contribute, go to PayPal me. A link is in the description, and you can help me create this content for you all to enjoy because you enjoy it, hopefully. And I enjoy bringing these stories to you, so I appreciate everyone who helps. Anyway, this guy's name is Christian, and we're going to check his stories out. And then I think we have some Bigfoot stuff coming up, a couple different Bigfoot stories, and lots of things on the horizon. So I hope you enjoy this one. All right, Christian, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, and then we will just go straight into your stories, please.
Sure. My name is Christian. I'm a OEF vet. Done a lot of travels around the world in the United States. I've done some volunteer work with an organization called WOLF, World Opportunities for Organic Farming. And they're kind of like Volunteers of America. And working for them is one of my encounters took place in Romania, just outside of Transylvania in a small village called Abayulia. And then I had two other encounters that happened, one in 1999 and the other two happened in 2013. So I guess I'm going to come to you by order then.
Okay.
The one that happened in 1999, I was about 17 years old, and I was going to hang out at this spot that me and my friends hung out at called the Dam. And basically what it was is it's a dam in an infenced area with a neighborhood on one side of it and then a farm on the other side with cows and stuff. And me and my friends were going out there just, hanging out, drinking some vodka and orange juice, and we went there to drink because, we were juveniles still, so that was a place where we could drink and not get bothered. But we got there at midnight, and it was everything was pretty normal until around 2 a.m. Everything got dead silent for a while. Like you couldn't hear the crickets, you couldn't hear any noise that you normally hear in the woods, and everything got eerily quiet. And I remember the hair in the back of our neck stood up, and then the cows started mooing frantically, like they started just mooing chaotically, and they kind of sounded like they were in a panic. And so immediately after that, there was a scream, and in this scream, it was like a scream that sounded like somebody were getting their insides torn out. And then the scream turned from that to like a higher pitched scream, kind of like a gnarly scream. And then it turned into a growl, and then it turned into a howl. And it happened all in series, and it happened all in series in the same noise, like it happened in that order. And so I took it that what I heard was a werewolf changing, because that's what it sounded like. It sounded like, a werewolf changing. And I heard my friends, I said, did you guys hear that? And they said, yeah. And when as soon as I had said that, the noise stopped, and then over far left to the woods behind the dam, the trees started ruffling, and they're ruffling like something behind it was running behind the trees. And so I said, we got to get out of here. So they were already in the car driving out, and I was behind the car. It was a Hyundai hatchback, and I was trying to get into the back of the hatch, so I could close the hatch. And then right across the dam, I seen this thing clear the dam in like one leap. I seen this big wolf that was chasing us with these yellow amber eyes, and it was just a black wolf that was chasing us, huge. And he wasn't too far from behind the car. And then so but it didn't look like a normal wolf. It was this thing. This thing was huge. And so when I got behind the car, I was trying to close the hatch because I didn't want this thing, creep up on me because it was getting pretty close. And we were doing like 40 or 50 outside this property. And so finally, I got to the fence line where the dam meets the neighborhood, where it starts to meet the neighborhood that was on the other side. And when we got to that fence line, this thing stopped chasing us, almost like it had a perimeter, like that was the spot. I didn't want to go any further. And then we proceeded, to leave. And when it was crazy because the guy that was driving was so panicked. He was driving with his headlights off the whole time. He didn't turn his headlights on until we got to that section. And so we were driving in complete darkness. But that was my first encounter when I was 17.
And that was where that was in Florida?
That was in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, Tampa, Florida.
And this thing was running on all fours?
It was running. When I saw it leap the dam, it was on two legs. Like it leaped it on like two legs. But when it chased us behind the car, it ran on all fours. It was like gallop, like a sideways galloping. It was running like crossways galloping on all fours.
And he said what color was the eyes?
The eyes were amber yellow, like a glowing phosphorescent amber yellow. They were very, very powerful amber yellow eyes. They glowed. You could see them very well in the darkness.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what color was the beast? Could you tell?
It was black. It had like a matte black fur. It was like a really dark black. Like it was a really, really dark black fur. And it was pretty big. I know when I was trying to close the hatch and I was looking at it, and I was looking at it the way it was running. You could see his muscles when it ran. His muscles would bulge up, like you could see the form of his body.
Did the front or the back? Did one of those seem higher than the other, like abnormal for a canine type creature?
Yeah, it did. It did actually. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Which was taller?
And it was
the front or the back? The back was taller or
the
shorter? Typically,
the front was bigger, but the back, the legs were taller. Like the hocks were a little bit bigger than in normal canines.
Okay. Wow. Well, yeah. So did you all ever go back to that area?
No, we never went back to it. We never even spoke about it, not to anyone or each other after that.
Wow. Well, yeah. So you think that the changing and the screaming to the morphing of that sound, you believed it was something changing?
I believe it was something changing just because of the progression of the sounds, the way they shape from one form to another.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people that say they've seen that type of thing that have been in the occult. And I've had a few videos where someone saw the changing, into that type of creature. One of them was with some ointment that they rubbed on, and the other one was through some type of Satanism type stuff. And there's people that's been
Wow.
high level in that kind of stuff and said they know that that happens for a fact. And interesting, makes
I
you
don't know if
wonder.
I. Yeah, I don't know if I could handle seeing the change. I mean, just hearing it terrified me. Imagine seeing it.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably pretty ugly to have
Yeah.
seen. That was for sure. Okay, now that was your
Yeah.
first one. Where was the next encounter at?
The next encounter was in a village called Alba Iulia, right outside of Transylvania, in Romania. And this was an even more up close and personal one because this happened in the place where I was staying at the time. And this was again in 2013. I was doing volunteer work for this place called Wolf, Worldwide Opportunities for Organic Farming, and and the village that I was at is a 1,000-year-old village that is it's got green pastures as far as the eyes can see, trees, hills. It looks like a mini paradise. Like if you were to picture the Garden of Eden, this is how this place looked, like the Garden of Eden. Everything glowed. Like the vegetables had a certain tint and hue to them, like they were brighter than usual vegetables. And the animals were a little bit bigger and more rugged, you know. And the people in there were in incredible shape. You know, I remember one of the farmers was a 70-year-old man who had a six-pack, you know. He put me to shame, and I was in pretty good shape at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 200 pounds solid. You know, I thought I was in good shape. This guy's got a six-pack and he's 70 years old, you know.
Wow, that's incredible.
You know, yeah. And also I met some monks in this village, some Orthodox Christian monks that they had a what do you call it, what do you call it, not a chapel,
Monastery, or I think they call
a monastery. Yeah, they had a monastery, and it was crazy because their monastery was the only building that didn't have bars in the windows. But all the buildings, all these old houses had like thick bars in their windows, in all the windows. And they had really tall fences with really big mastiffs guarding their properties and their houses. And these mastiffs were like the size of a small black bear, you know. These things are huge, huge dogs. And they use them to protect, you know, their livestock too. But like I said, everything was going good. I went and I had dinner with the monks, and while I was working there, and it was crazy because when I had dinner with these monks, I don't mean to go off topic, but it's something I wanted to bring up. It was such a cool vibe because when you ate with them, like you felt this cool vibe, you know, you felt this good vibe. You were in the presence of good people, you know, and they were just awesome to be around. But let me silence this phone.
And you say that their building was the only one that didn't have bars?
Yeah, they didn't have bars. They had like wood. They had like wood shutters, but they didn't have bars in the windows.
Did you ever wonder what the bars were about? I mean, it's not common.
Well, I kind of figured that out later. But initially I didn't know. Initially, I wondered what the bars were about, but I didn't know, you know.
Wow.
But I figured out later when I had my encounter. But basically it was me and three and three other woofers that stayed in this village. I stayed in a small cheese cellar that was turned into a cottage. It's very old world looking, with like feathered pillows, and you know, you got hay underneath your bed, and there's hay in the back with, you know, the cultured cheese in the back that's being put in jars and stuff, and it had bars in the window. And this is where I was staying at this place. Because what you do is you take a trip there, they pay for room and board, and you work, you know, you do agricultural exchanges to work for free, basically. So I was staying over there in this couple's house who didn't have children. The children had died a long time ago, and they're a very nice couple. But I was doing a lot of work with sheep and with hay and stuff like that, and doing a lot of agricultural exchanges, and I learned a lot from these people, and were amazed by, you know, their health and how beautiful everything was around them. And like I said, I met the monks and everybody, and I stayed there for close to a month. I was supposed to stay there for a month, but I only stayed there for 3 weeks, and I'm going to get to the reason why. But the first 2 weeks was, like I said, normal, nothing happened, nothing was going on. And my French wolf partner stayed across the street, and she lived in a kind of like a cottage that they had set up across the street, which was a little bit more modern than mine. And she had the same thing, bars and an 8-foot metal fence, and you know, and the dogs, you know. And then so when I was staying over on my side, I had to sleep alone. They slept together. The three of them slept together in the same place, and I slept alone in my cottage because it was right underneath this house that I was staying at, in the cheese cellar I meant. And then so on the third week, like immediately following the third week, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would start waking up, and with this feeling like something's outside, like something dangerous is outside. I would wake up with this fear and this feeling like that I feel something outside. And it would happen at 3 in the morning for like 4 or 5 days at a time. Finally, on the 5th day, I decided to check, you know, what was going on. So I stayed awake to see if I would hear any noises. And lo and behold, I heard something grab the fence and then thump, like something land on the other side of the fence, like just cleared the fence, you know, like something jumped the fence.
Uh-huh.
And it sounded pretty heavy. So I go and I look. There's 2 windows in this place where I'm staying at. There's one on the side and one in the front. And I look at the side window. I'm looking out the side window, and I see this hairy animal standing on 2 legs. But this thing is so tall that I can't see its head. You know, I can only see like the mid-bottom portion of it. And it starts walking towards my front window. Then I got this little dog that's in this property that's just outside this cheese cellar. Started barking, going crazy, standing in front of my front door. And then so I go to the front window now to try to see what this thing is. And it now this thing crouches down because this is about 7 or 8 foot tall, and the window was probably only like, you know, 3 or 4 foot off the ground. It crouched down and got on all fours because it was on 2 legs at first as it walked, and then it got down and crouched on all fours and put its head right in front of mine. And all I saw was those yellow eyes and these teeth that it was showing me with his snout and his huge head. This head was huge, and these ears that were tall with a little bit of hair like a bobcat has sticking out of them. And then and it was the same like the other one I saw, had matte black fur with a little bit of brown in it, but mostly matte black. And it was huge. I mean, it looked like a football player. I mean, I'm pretty big now, and it's probably like twice my size at that time. And when I went and saw this thing, I couldn't get outside of the window. I mean, I stood and I looked at it for like a good 10 seconds because I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing this, you know? And I was frozen in fear. So then finally I shut the curtain in the windows, and I run to the corner, and I grab this crowbar and I wedge it in between the door and the ground, because the only thing that was holding that door was this wood plank and this little lock. And of course my little guard dog that was outside protecting me and barking, going crazy at this thing. So now this thing starts scratching at my door and sniffing at the bottom of the door. So now I'm like, this thing's trying to get in. So I wedged the crowbar even more, and then I see the wood plank move like it tried to manipulate the handle, like it tried to grab the handle. And mind you, this thing also had fingers. You know, it didn't have paws. That's another thing I forgot to mention. This thing had fingers, because when I saw it land on all fours, I saw its front hands, and they were really long with really long claws. They were abnormally long, very scary. And then so I went and I was like, oh my God, this thing's trying to get in. I didn't have any kind of weapon. I didn't know, what was going on, if this thing was going to make it in or not. So the only thing that I could think of doing was praying, So I started praying real hard, and all you hear is a little dog going, ah, 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 barking at this thing while it's sniffing at my door, and scratching at my door. And then so like immediately after I started praying, it just got up and then hopped the fence the same way it went in and just went away. But
Wow.
And so the next morning, I went and I asked the French girl across the street if she heard anything, messing around her place, and she said yeah, but she didn't know what it was. So then I told her one word that I knew in French, which was loup garou, and then her eyes widened up. She was like, oh, okay. And then so I'm like, listen, I know I'm supposed to stay here for another week, but I'm leaving today. Do you want to come with me or do you want to stay? And she came with me. We both left.
Now,
Yeah.
when you saw the thing, basically you were kind of in a cellar type thing, so your window probably was about ground level and up a little ways, right? And you were kind of underground a little.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it had to go. I guess if you had a door getting into it, it probably had some type of way down to the door or something like that, or.
Yeah.
Okay. But how tall do you think this thing was?
This thing was like, it cleared the fence with no problem. And like I said, when it stood in front of the first time in the window, like I tried to look up and I couldn't see its head. I didn't see its head till it crushed down. But this thing had to have been about 7 or 8 foot tall, because even I could go outside the window, you could see at least my chest or my neck, on the side of the window. This thing I could only see its lower half. And then so when it crushed down is when I saw it. But
and you said the head was really large.
Massive. It was very large.
Did it look oversized for the body? Or did it kind of comparable to the body?
Was it what?
Did it look too big? Did it look oversized for the body? Or did it look more just like big just because the whole thing was big?
It wasn't oversized from the body. It was proportionate. The body was big and the head was big, but the head was it was huge.
Okay. And this, the color of this one's eyes was the same as the first one that you saw?
Yeah, it was yellow. Yeah, wow. Can you hang on for a second? I got my neighbor keeps knocking.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So yeah, and it had the same yellow eyes, but the thing about these eyes is that when they stare at you, they stare into your soul. They almost got like a hypnotizing effect. Like when you stare at them, not the first time. The first time it was just like a glow I was seeing in the dark. But the second time, my second encounter in Romania, when this thing was right by the window and I looked into its eyes, I don't know if that had part to do with why I was at the window for so long. I couldn't get away from it,
Mm-hmm.
But it had almost like a hypnotizing effect. Like this thing was, like staring into my soul.
Yes.
But I never forget those eyes.
Did it have the same glow, or they were just yellow? Did it seem to have?
No, they had the same glow, almost like they glue from inside.
Wow. And did you get a look at the teeth?
Yeah, the teeth were unusually sharp, and they were canine teeth and big. But they didn't, like normal dog teeth. They're sharp, but they're not like as sharp as these were. These teeth were like very sharp. You could tell just by looking at them. These things grabbed you to tear you to pieces.
Wow, that's scary stuff, man. So, did you think he was going to try to get in?
Yeah, I thought it was going to get in. That's why I started praying, because I'm like, the only thing I was holding his door was that little piece of wood and the crowbar. And when it was scratching the door, I'm like, all this thing has to do is just thump this door down, you know, and I got nowhere to go because there's bars in all the windows. It's not like I can crawl out any of the windows. You know, I got no weapon, no nothing to do. The only thing I could do is throw it a block of cheese, and hopefully he's that instead of me, you know.
Yeah.
But
so you felt like the when you prayed, that was what turned the tide for you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely what did it. Almost like when I prayed, it almost got like, you know, like it got rushed off, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so after that, is that why you think that they have the bars and the tall gates and all that kind
That's
of thing?
why I think they had the bars, yeah, because this thing would come in a this thing would come in a this thing would come in a you could hear in the mountains when in the valley, because this village was surrounded by like valleys, by like 3 valleys, and you could hear you could hear them coming down from the valley because all the dogs would start barking, you know, and right before, you know, like I would wake up at 3 in the morning, you would hear the dogs start barking, but that's not what woke me up. What woke me up is that feeling, that presence of hearing something, you know, hearing something there, you know.
Right.
I mean, not hearing, but feeling something there.
So you think that these people had the dogs kind of as an early warning thing, or because they surely
Yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah,
much protection, you know? And, okay.
right,
I mean, to me, I
uh,
think it sounds like a good idea, you know.
yeah. No, their dogs were huge too. They were like the size of small black bears. Their guard dogs were huge. There were certain breed of mastiff, um, but their dogs were huge too, and they were, you know, designed to protect their livestock from predators. So they had them for protection and early warning. But the bars were huge too on these windows. The bars were, you know, not like the bars that we're used to here in the States. These bars were probably about an inch thick.
Right. And you said the fingers were really long. Can you give us kind of
Yeah, they
any?
were unusually long.
And I guess that really long compared to the palm part of the hand, they were just really extra. So it gave them some kind of creepy factor look.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound really creepy, man. I mean, you know, what did the claws look like?
The claws were, they looked like, they were like, a little curved, but they weren't too curved, you know? And they looked, they were black, you know, just black. Um, and they were a little long because they left some deep impressions in the doors when it was clawing at the door, and sharp. Because in the next morning you could see a claw marks where it was scratching at the door.
Right.
So
Did they seem like fingernail type claws or like pointy or tubular or whatever or kind
no,
of?
they seem more like tubular. They didn't seem like fingernail claws at all. They seem more tubular.
Okay. Wow. That sounds really really scary, man. That's for sure. And so you just decided you was gonna leave. You weren't even gonna hang around no more then.
Yeah, I decided I left the next day. I was like, I ain't staying here another night. I left the next morning.
Yeah. Did the Romania itself have that kind of creepy factor, ancient feel to it?
It did. It did. It did. That was one thing that you know was kind of like, you know, it gave it a certain kind of magic to it, you know,
Right.
where, you know, you had more of a better awe and a better vibe of the place, but it was kind of, you know, it gave it more of a creep factor too, like, you know, you're wondering what's out there, you know, in the woods, or what's out there, you know.
Right.
You know, the cities even look scarier, you know, like in Bucharest, the cities look scarier, you know. It was just a scarier place.
Right. Did they have a lot of woods there that you seen? I mean, how built up is the
Oh
place?
yeah, they had a lot of woods. They had ranges of mountain, hills, valleys, woods, you know, yeah. But they had open woods, you know, with trees, plenty of running space, and you know, the woods are not as like as thick as the woods like we have here in Florida per se. But they got woods though.
Yeah. So plenty of places for stuff like that then, huh?
Oh yeah.
Did anybody ever mention anything like that to you, or while you were there? Or
Yeah, the farmers would mention them. They would mention them about this. Yeah, they would steal their sheep, and snatch their chickens out of the hens and stuff. And but they call them dragu. Dragu is like a slang term for devil or monster. You know, they didn't just call them normal wolves. They call them dragu.
so you didn't know exactly what they were talking about then?
Yeah, I didn't know what they were talking about. I thought they were just talking about normal wolves. You know.
Right. Wow. It would have been. Did you ask the monks anything about anything like that, or
No, because I hung out with the monks prior to the experience. After the experience happened, the monks emailed me and asked me why I left so early, and I didn't want to tell them, you know. So I just made up some excuse and say, oh no, my flight, was going to leave earlier or something like that. I told them because I didn't want to tell them what I saw, you know.
Oh man, that would have been
But I'm sure
interesting.
they probably knew about it.
Yeah, it'd have been interesting to get their insight
Yeah,
on it. You might have
yeah,
you might have missed
yeah,
opportunity there. But I mean, I
yeah.
get why you did. You probably didn't really know what to even say or do at the time.
Right.
Wow. So you had another encounter after this one then. Where was this one at?
Yeah, and this was in 2013, later part of the year 2013 in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was backpacking in Arizona, and I remember at the time it was late at night, and I was by this park where they had nice grass and trees and stuff, and all I wanted to do was just lay my backpack down and catch a nap, so I can continue walking on later. So I was pretty tired. So I'm at this park and I'm walking, and I finally find a spot. I put my backpack down, but as I'm looking over to the corner, I see these legs moving, and I see a body on top of another body with these legs moving. So immediately I thought, oh my God, a couple was having sex right here in the park at night, out in the open. So I didn't want to lay down by them, So I was probably about maybe 20 feet away from where I saw this. And then so I walked around on the sidewalk, on the other side of the grass. And then on the end of the sidewalk, there was this lamp post where this thing was at, where I thought people were at. And so as I'm walking closer to it, I see that it's not people at all. It's this something crouching on top of a body, and it looked like it was eating on it. And it was this big thing. It kind of looked like it had the same hind legs as the Dogman, but it didn't have any fur. It had human skin with human hair, and then it was wearing clothes, and then it had long arms, a little bit strange long arms, and then the head. When I was looking at this thing after it was eaten, it turned for a second. It turned back to look at me, and it had these red eyes, these piercing red eyes, and then the head looked like a slash between a dog and a human, and it was just ugly, and then I remember when I saw this thing, I got from 20 to 10 feet away from it, and then I went in and I put my hands up, and I froze just like I did in Romania. I froze. And then something told me you need to start stepping, or this thing's gonna eat you next. So I started walking back slowly with my hands up, like, whoa, I don't want no problems, walking slowly with my hands back. And then as soon as I got about 15, 20 foot away from it again, I ran down to the center where they got the bathrooms and stuff at, the parking where they got the bathrooms and stuff at. And then I met this car full of teenage boys that were smoking. And then they went and they saw me run. They said, hey, did you see it? Did you see it? And I said, yeah. And they're like, man, you need to get the heck out of here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna. And they're like, yeah, because we're gonna go. And they left. They hightailed out of there because I think they had seen it. And then And then so I just ran as fast as I could, got my backpack running as fast as I could out of that park. But I went to the VA after that because I didn't know what that was. It didn't look at all like a dogman or a werewolf, but it had characteristics, of both. And I spoke to this Navajo native about it, and he said that what I saw was a skinwalker, and that I was lucky to be alive. And he said that in that same park that I was at, that a lot of homeless guys would go missing. And so it was probably feeding on a body of one of those homeless guys when I saw it.
Wow.
But
so basically, it was it had its back legs. What did the back legs look like?
Yeah.
The back legs looked like
and
a
that's
dog.
That's what was moving around. That's what was moving around because it was crouching down. His back legs were bent backwards.
Yeah, so it basically had dog-like hind legs, and then
it had dog hind legs, and then human front arms, but they were long.
And no fur on the body.
No fur. It was skin and hair and clothes.
Like you mean hair just on the head?
Hair on the head and on the body. It was a hairy body, but with skin. You could see the skin underneath it.
So it was kind of just really thin, sparsely populated with hair on the body. Then.
Yeah.
What was it wearing? Just regular clothes, or?
It was wearing like a gray shirt, and then it was wearing these hiked up khaki pants, but pants didn't look like if it even fit on it, And I don't know. It didn't look normal. It didn't look right. It didn't look proportionate, And then when it turned back and looked at me, and I saw his red eyes. I was like, this thing ain't even human,
Yeah, and then you said it kind of had the dog face, but kind of didn't. It's kind of a mixture or something.
Yeah, it had like a human face and a dog face mixed together.
So the snout wasn't very long or something, or
no, it wasn't very long at all. No.
Yeah, I've heard a few descriptions like that. Kind of almost a blend of it. So you believe this was a skinwalker then, huh? I mean
yeah, skinwalker.
So this was skinwalker. I guess is a person who has actually changed into this type of creature. Wow.
Right.
So did you get a look at any at all at the thing that it was eating on? Did you know if it was a man or
no, because this thing was so big. It was hunched over. His body was so big that you couldn't see what it was eating. It just looked like another body beneath it.
Right. My goodness.
Look at another body laying down beneath it, and it was still. And then this thing was just on top of it, munching away.
Man, that's all.
Yeah.
The homeless population, that's not good, is it? Don't have much of a homeless problem if you have that keep going on, I reckon. But, so you just throw your hands up and you basically and you felt like you heard get out of here.
Yeah.
That I guess that was I mean, you wouldn't really have to hear nothing like get. I mean, that'd be the natural reaction. I think I better get out of here. Man, that's awful, dude. Man, that's and the eyes they were red. Did these eyes have a glow about them like they had their own light source again?
Yeah, they did. They did also, but it was red instead of amber.
Does that kind of create more of an evil look to you in a way when it being red?
It felt evil. It felt evil when it turned out and looked at me. It felt evil. It felt like this thing would have done me harm.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's eating on a body, it's pretty. That's already pretty evil. The red eye thing. That's I mean, every time I hear of something with red eyes, typically it's something that comes off more evil than the typical, glowing eyes. I've heard of green and amber and all kinds of different things, but um, the red is usually associated with demonic.
Yeah.
But so you just happened into some Native American person, and you
Yeah, the VA he's the one that told me that it was a skinwalker, because I didn't know what even a skinwalker was, until I gave him the description. He was like, "Yeah, well, what you saw was a skinwalker."
Mm, hmm. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a skinwalker for sure. So anyway, you've had 3 different encounters. Do you think you just kind of happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you think maybe that?
Well, I've always been a paranormal magnet, but I think these encounters didn't have nothing to do with that. I just think I just had really bad luck.
Yeah.
Like I'd be the guy, if I had to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, it'd be me.
Well, I mean, maybe the one in Romania, it did seek you out. You just had the other two sounds like you were kind of at a place and happened to.
Yeah.
Um, but the Romania thing, that it came looking around where you were. It came to you, and you
Yeah, it
said
came to me.
you had this feeling for several nights in a row, huh?
Several nights in a row. So it was probably snooping around a lot longer than I thought. Than just that night I seen it. And I would hear noises and I would hear walking, but I would pay no attention to it. And I would hear the dog barking, I pay no attention to it. But it was just that the 5th night, when I had enough of it, I was like, well, let me just see what happens, And then lo and behold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's interesting. Romania is automatically kind of interesting, just because you've heard of the folklore and stuff from that area. But it makes you think of vampires and that type of thing. Werewolves and what have you. So
Yeah.
certainly is a mystical sounding type place. Well, I tell you what, man, you've got some very interesting stories for sure, man, and you sounds like you're pretty fortunate to even be alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've
Well,
almost been.
like I said, I'm prior military and I don't scare easy, but those 3 encounters scared the piss out of me.
Yeah, I bet, man. I mean, you'd be silly if you wasn't scared of that kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
they say they ain't even real easy to kill. People shot them and what have you. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience about it, or anything else
Yeah,
that you
just
want to share?
yeah, just when you're out in the woods, just be careful because you don't know what's out there. You really don't know what's out there. And then the skinwalker that I encountered, I was in a public park, so it was in an urban area. The other 2 encounters were in the woods, and one was close to an urban area. So you never know when you're going to come across something. You just got to be careful.
Yeah, and I mean,
Don't go in the woods alone.
Yeah, in a way, I mean, you're in a public park one time. You were by the dam. I mean, once, and in a village another time. So really sounds like you weren't out in some kind of way out of the way kind of areas, and but
No,
a public park. My goodness, that just goes to show you. Do you think this kind of thing is getting worse than it ever used to be in numbers of incidents that people have these days, or do you think it's always been this way and
I
people
don't
didn't
think
talk about it?
I don't think it's getting worse. I think it was just because of the internet, the World Wide Web, and media. There's more people coming out and talking about it. Whereas before, we didn't have the internet and we didn't have the media focused that much on it. There was people that were experiencing it, but they had nobody to talk to about it. So they didn't have anybody to share it with. So now there's more people coming together saying, yeah, I've had this experience. I've had this encounter. And, there's a World Wide Web out there where you can research a lot more things too and gather a lot more data than you could before. I think that has a big part to do in it.
Yeah, and I believe you're right. I mean, most people that subscribe to this channel, they know that I studied broadcasting and what have you, and worked in it for a little while. And one of the things I do know is people sometimes will say, "Oh, there's more tornadoes and more this or that than ever before," but we hear about every single one of those type things, and we get to hear about these encounters and these type stories. But these stories have always been around. We used to call them mythicals or myths or folklore, or things like that. But it seems to me, the more that people have come forward and shared, it's not really a myth; it's a fact. And so thank you for sharing, man. And if you run across any more good, stories, you know anybody or something like that,
hopefully not.
Yeah, if you have any more stories yourself, just holler at me. But if you run across someone, you share your story, and they say, "Hey, I seen something crazy," you know where to send them. So, but thank you, Christian.
Okay.
I really appreciate it, and stay in touch.
Appreciate
man.
you.
All right.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you all out there in YouTube land. Hope you enjoyed this, and got some other interesting stories coming to you soon. Got a Native American fellow who I recorded a Bigfoot story with that I should have that done here soon, and that you'll be able to see that. I have another Bigfoot story from right here in Lexington, Kentucky. I should get that one next week sometime, and it's very crazy, one of those Bigfoot getting in the house kind of stories. And so just to let you know a little bit of the stuff that's coming up. So thank you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. If anyone out there has a story they'd like to share, contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com, and give me your description of your story and contact information. If anybody wants to contribute, you can go to PayPal me, link in the description, and you can help keep this show going because it's an awesome show. Thank you all. God bless, and bye-bye.